It's fascinating to me, almost universally, as we go through ancient traditions, the calendars and the texts, they all point to now. The Mayan calendar, for example, by some accounts, this calendar marks periods of time over 18,000 years ago with tremendous accuracy. And the calendar stops now. It actually ended in July of 1992. The Mayan calendar suggests that between July of 1992 and December of 2012, we're living a time the Mayans called no time. And during this 20-year window, the changes within our world and the changes within our bodies will forever redefine what our world and our bodies look like and how we experience them in this lifetime. Now, I asked a Mayan holy man, if they had the technology to develop these systems of timekeeping with such accuracy then, why do they stop now? Why don't we have a new system of timekeeping from this point forward? And the holy man laughed at me. And he said, don't even try to develop a new system of timekeeping, because by the end of this 20-year window, you will never perceive time the same again. Many people throughout the world, this isn't just a Western phenomenon, as we travel throughout the world, they have a sense that time is speeding up, like time is collapsing. Well, what we now know, what our life scientists say to us, is that our body measures time by tuning itself to the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And now our own scientists have documented that that heartbeat is increasing. This is that base resonance that we just spoke of. It has increased at least from 7.8 beats per second, or 7.8 cycles, to at least 9, maybe 11 cycles per second. So to our bodies, time is speeding up, and apparently that is one of the parameters that will continue through this cycle. So the holy man said, don't even try to build a new calendar, because you'll never perceive time the same again. The Egyptian traditions. On the west bank of the Nile River, about 60 miles outside of Luxor, is a magnificent temple, the Temple of Hathor, in the village of Dendara. And in one of the little chambers, a very ordinary looking little chamber with a low ceiling, it's only about 5 feet tall is the ceiling, there is the representation, it's the first time we see what today we call the calendar of the zodiac in its entirety, where all the zodiac signs are indicated and the precession of the equinoxes is actually mapped out for us. And it's on this Egyptian calendar that marks cycles of time going back over 40,000 years. This calendar actually says that we're completing now an age that we know as the Piscean age and moving into an age that we call the Aquarian age. And people ask me all the time as I'm doing programs and lectures, they say, well, this great shift that we're talking about, exactly what year does it happen? And we can't really answer that any longer because we really don't even know what year this is. There's an interesting phenomenon that occurred when we went from the Roman calendar into the systems of timekeeping that we're using today. There wasn't a clean transition. And depending on whose interpretation you read, we arbitrarily tossed out some years to make the calendars work. Some interpretations say we tossed out 1 year. Some say 2, some say 3, some say 4. So maybe this is 1998, maybe it's 1999, maybe this is 2000 or 2001. And this brings up a very interesting point, and this is the reason I'm sharing it now. From my perspective, and again, I'm an optimist, I believe this is a healthy, natural process we're living. It doesn't make any difference what year it really is. And if we live our lives waiting and preparing for this great change, we miss life. We'll miss all the things that actually allow us the inner preparation. We'll miss the time with our families and the great experiences of sharing ourselves in the presence of one another if we're simply preparing for this great change. So we really don't know what year it is. We know it's close. We know it's in these days. My wife and I recently had a rare opportunity to journey on what for me was the trip and the dream of a lifetime as we journeyed into the mountains and the monasteries of central Tibet. Of the many things that happened in Tibet, we had the opportunity to interface with the nuns and the monks and the abbots of the monasteries through interpreters firsthand and ask them the questions, rather than speculating through their text and through their records, we spoke with them and asked them direct questions. One of the questions I asked was, how do Tibetans view this time in history? They measure cycles in terms of great expanses of time called Yuga, Y-U-G-A. And from their perspective, we're in the Kali Yuga. And even among some of the Tibetans, there were varying opinions about where we are in the Kali Yuga. Some said we had time left. Others said we're at the end, we're at the close of the Kali Yuga. And I said, okay, if that is so, what comes next? And they kind of looked at one another and laughed and scratched their heads. And so I thought maybe it wasn't interpreted well. So I asked again. I said, what comes after the Kali Yuga? And they came back and they looked at me and they said, well, nothing. That's it. It's the close. It's the end of our time. And I said, well, what do you see after that? And they said, we're creating it right now. And to me, that eloquent, simple answer is so key in how we perceive this time in history. As the phenomenon converge, the calendars all point to now, history points to now, the texts point to now, and so many are witnessing what they believe is the close or the end of the cycle. It's the end of the decade, the end of the century, the close of the millennium, the end of these great expanses of time, the end of the Piscean age, the end possibly of the Kali Yuga. And if this is true, then the optimist in me invites you to bear in mind that then this is also a beginning of something brand new. And you are the generation that is bridging the membrane of space-time between all that's ever been and that which is yet to be. And everything that we become in this lifetime now carries over to the foundation of all that will be from that point forward. How we address the great challenges of our lives individually and collectively all become the building blocks for future generations as we go through this next great cycle. What an exciting time to be here. What an awesome possibility.